let's begin our discussion with binary numbers. Now, when you hear the word bi, what do you think of? Bi is associated with the number 2. And so binary numbers have only two possibilities, 0 or 1. Now, when dealing with circuits, 0 is, or it corresponds to a circuit being in the off state. 1 corresponds to a circuit being in the on state. So if you're dealing with true and false statements, an off state will be considered false, and on state would be considered true. If you're dealing with voltage, an off state would have 0 volts, and an on state, typically 5 volts, but something other than 0. Now, before we go over and, or, and not gates, let's talk about the buffer gate. So here is the symbol of the buffer gate. And it basically looks like a triangle pointing towards the right. On the left, we have the input. On the right, we have the output. So we're going to call the input. The output will also be the same. So if we were to make a truth table with the input and the output, if the input is on, which means it has a binary number of 1, the output will also be in the on state. If the input is in the off state, which means it has a binary of 0, the output will have the same binary number of 0 as well. Now let's draw a circuit to represent this. And the principal element of this circuit will be an NPN transistor. This is the base, this is the collector, and this is the emitter. Now we're going to connect this to a power source, and we're also going to use a light emitting diode. Now the light emitting diode, it's going to represent the output of the circuit. Now let's connect this to a voltage source. So here is the input, which we'll call it input A. And what's going to happen if we apply a voltage to point A? So if the input is in an on state, will the LED, will it be on or off? Well, once you apply a voltage to the base, the transistor will turn on. Current will flow from the collector to the emitter. Therefore, the LED will be in an on state. So this corresponds to a 1 for the input and the output. Now, what about if the input is off? So in this case, we have a 0 at the input. If there's no voltage at the base, then the transistor will be off. No current will be able to flow from the collector to the emitter. So therefore, the LED will be off as well. And so that's basically the buffer logic gate. So if you have a 1 in the input, you're going to have a 1 in the output. If you have a 0 in the input, you have a 0 in the output.